Hey everybody, Marcus Crawford here with the Idaho Quadcopter channel. I have the DJI Mini 2 SE, or in my case I call it the DeMarco Mini 2 SE, named after my friend DeMarco Moore. We are going to take a look at return to home today and the various ways that your Mini 2 SE will come back to you. I know for a lot of people the Mini 2 SE is their first drone, and it's an excellent first drone at that, or maybe even just your first GPS camera drone. But there's a lot of safety features that DJI built into this, and we're going to go over them. We're going to go over smart return to home, we're going to go over low battery return to home, and we're going to go over fail-safe return to home. All three things we'll explain as we go along. And then also I'm going to show you a couple other tricks, how you can change the home point on the fly, change it to match the controller, where you're at with the controller, or change it, just move it around on the map to set a home point wherever you like, wherever you'd like the drone to return to. But it's a very robust little drone. Let's quit messing around. Let's get this bird in the air and let's get started with this tutorial. Okay, I've got the drone fired up and it's ready to go. We've got about 17 satellites here. You can see on the mini map down in the corner, it's got a home point recorded already. It does that once it acquires enough satellites. But there's some things we need to attend to first. Before every flight, click on those top three dots in the top right hand side there, and you're going to be on the safety tab there. You're going to see your max altitude, and we've got that set to 120 meters. I've got distance set to no limit. Do that however you think it's safe for you. But this return to home altitude, the next one down there, I have it set at 35 meters. Where I'm at right now, that is absolutely fine. If you were in an area that you had some taller trees or mountains or something like that, you may want to set that higher. And you could set that all the way up to your 120 meters max altitude if you wanted to, or even higher actually. But you're also going to see down there an update home point at the very bottom of that menu. We're going to look at that later, but for now we're good to go. Compass is normal, IMU is normal. Battery info, I always take a look at that. We're 4.35, 4.34, our battery is good. So we're okay to take off. So the first thing that we're going to do here is once we take off, we want to make sure we record a home point, and I'm going to show you how the drone behaves if you do return to home within 20 meters of your takeoff point. So I'm going to start recording on the drone right now, and I'm going to do an auto takeoff on the app by touching that up arrow on the left hand side, holding that button down, and the little drone takes off. And we got a good little gust of wind there. You know, it's about 1 meter high right now. Let's run it up a little higher than that. Let's run it up about 4 meters high, and let's push it forward here. But we're going to go out less than 20 meters. So let's see. We're at about. Let's get out there about 10 meters away. 10 meters away, and the drone is just hovering there. In fact, we can turn it around so that it's facing us. I'm going to flip the drone around here, and so you can see where we're standing and where the landing pad is. I'll drop that camera down just a little bit. So the first thing that we're going to do, you need to know, is how do you execute a return to home? Well, that's in two ways. I'm going to hold the controller up right here. The return to home pause button on the left hand side of the controller, simply hold that down and that will put the drone into return to home. The other way to do it is on the app. That down arrow on top of an H, that's return to home. Let's do that one first. So I'm going to touch that down arrow on the app, and then all it's going to do there, because we're within 20 meters, the only option it's going to give me is to land. So I don't want to do that. So I'm going to hit the return to home button on the controller, and what it should do is simply hover. Yeah, and it just tells you that return to home is unavailable within 20 meters of the home point. I learned something there. We're gonna try that again with the return to home on the app. See, it doesn't even give you the option. All it'll do is land. So if you held that down, it would land in that spot where it's at right now. So I'm going to bring the drone back and land it, and we will start again, and we'll show you what happens when you're over 20 meters. Okay, let's go ahead and take off here again, and this time let's do a manual takeoff. I'm going to do both sticks down and in. That starts the motors, and I'm going to push up on the left stick, and it tells us on the screen there that it recorded its home point. Look for that every time before you fly off. So now what happens if we're more than 20 meters away from our home point and we hit return to home? Let's go up here, get above these trees, and let's go out over the park and take a look and see what happens. So let's go straight out over the park. And as you may recall, we set our return to home height at 35 meters. And we're about 100 meters away. So let's hit that return to home button and see what happens. This time I'm going to do it on the controller. I'm just going to hold that button down until I hear all the beeping. So the drone is coming back right now. And let me drop that camera down as we go so you can see. And you saw it rise to its 35 meter return to home height. This drone does not have precision landing, so I have no expectation that it's going to land right on that landing pad. However, it should be pretty darn close. I've got the camera pointed straight down here, so let's see how close it comes. And again, you know, in a lot of occasions, you would simply land the drone manually if you were concerned about it landing someplace that it shouldn't. You know, as you can see, we got that curb right there. I wouldn't want it to land on the curb. Looks like it's going to be pretty darn close, though. So let's just see where this guy lands, and you'll see it on the GoPro. Yeah, it is on that GoPro right now. So, or excuse me, the Action 2 camera. I said GoPro there. And look, it's pretty darn close to the pad as it is. And it lifts that camera up. It does that automatically. It's just off the pad. So that's pretty close. Again, remember, this drone does not have what they call precision landing. In other words, it won't land exactly right on top of the pad like some other more sophisticated DJI drones will do. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay, what happens if you lose connection with your drone? In other words, if you fly it out of range, or if for some reason or another your phone battery dies, or the battery in the controller dies or something, what will the drone do? Well, it will always come back to you, so you don't have to worry about that. But that's why it's so important that you set that return to home height so that it can go over the top of any obstacles. But after it's just a few seconds, it will go into return to home. And what the drone does is it actually will try and regain connection. In other words, if you flew it out of range, it will come back 50 meters at whatever its height happens to be at that time, retrace its steps, and once it comes back that 50 meters and it still hasn't regained contact, it will then rise to its return to home height and come back. So let's try a loss of connection return to home, and I'm going to see if I can fly it out far enough that I can lose connection. And I think where I'm at here, I think I know of a way to do that. I might have to like hide the controller under the seat of my car or something to reduce the signal to that point, but we're going to give that a shot. So let's go ahead and take off here. So before I take off, there's one other thing that I want to show you. So again, we're going to look on that safety tab, and we're going to go into advanced safety settings, and right at the top you're going to see a thing that says, a little dialog box that says signal lost. And what do you want the drone to do when it loses signal? Do you want it to descend? In other words, ultimately it would land, or do you want it to hover? or do you want it to return to home? Well, I think in 95% of the cases, you're going to want it to return to home. Now, when might you use hover? Let's say you're in a place where you know you have a lot of obstacles and so forth. Yeah, you might want the drone simply to hover until you could get back to it and regain signal. Descend, I'm not sure when you would use that one. I suppose if you were in an area that you knew it could always land safely, then perhaps you may want to do that. But most of the time, you're going to put it in that return to home setting. Okay, we're going to do another automated takeoff on the app. And let's run this guy out. I kind of know where I want to go here. Let's go straight up, get some altitude here, and let's turn around and head. So what we're going to do is we are going to go across the street here, and we're going to send the drone out to, and we're only 25 meters high, so that will aid me in losing connection with the drone. At a lower height, it's harder for the drone to get signal. In other words, the higher you are, the easier it is to retain signal. So we're going to go directly across the street here. And that's the way I cross streets. I try and do it perpendicular. And then let's head out here over behind this, across this empty field, over kind of behind the Walmart here. And I think we can induce a in fact, I'm going to throw it into sport mode. Let's grab some, we're going to get a little bit of speed up here as we go. And I think we're going to get out there away. Yeah, it's giving me that warning in sport mode that it's going to, that it can pitch the gimbal down, and that's perfectly normal. But I've got the controller kind of in my car here. There, it pitched the gimbal down a little bit. And yeah, I'm already seeing I'm losing signal. You can see it's in red there. Yeah, let's see if we lose signal altogether. RC signal lost. So I am going to hold it down, and hopefully it won't gain signal. It'll try and back up now. So it's in return to home. You'll see that on the recording. I'm not seeing it on the FPV screen on my phone right now. It's just blank. Because I want to show you how it backs up 50 meters before it goes up to its return to home height, which we have set at 35 meters. So hopefully you're seeing that right now. I'm narrating this live, so like I said, I'm not seeing it, but I have enough experience with these drones that I know how that works, so I'm not worried about it. And as soon as it gets close enough to us, it'll regain control. And by the way, I did just what I said. I've got the RC under the seat of my car so that I could purposely go out of range there and show you this. But let's see. It should be. Yeah, it's starting to get. I'm getting some. Yeah, it's in return to home. It's at its 35 meter height, and it's coming back to us. I got signal back at about roughly 500 meters or so. And it's coming back to us. And that's, I guess, kind of one of the things that I'm trying to tell you is, you know what? It is really tough to lose your drone. Your drone always wants to come back to you. And that's exactly what it's doing right now. I'll drop that camera down as we get closer. 35 meters high, or 36 meters high, it says on the controller here. You can see my Tahoe right there, and there is the... and that's me dropping the camera. You can see the landing pad there. Let's see how close it gets. Yeah, it's going to be pretty darn close. Yeah, it kicked that camera up again. And we're in sport mode. And it comes back in normal mode. I should have mentioned that. I didn't look at the speed, but return to home speed is 10.5 meters per second. And that is something that you can adjust. You could kick the throttle up and have it come back higher. And it is not, oh yeah, now it's starting to, well, why isn't it descending? You know, I must have touched something and kicked it out of return to home. So it's not descending. That was my fault. I touched something and it kicked it out of return to home. Touched a stick or something. So let's go ahead and bring this guy down, and let's see if we can get it on the pad. Close, close. There we go. And I just brought it straight down from where it was at, and look, it's on the pad. So anyway, you get the idea. You're not going to lose your drone. And by the way, you know, I clearly, I must have touched the pause button or something that I kicked it out of return to home there. That's why it didn't land. But normally it would land. Okay, so now before we get to the last thing we're going to show you is low battery return to home, but we're not ready for that. We've still got 54% battery. I'm going to show you how you can change the home point on this drone to a completely different location. So the first thing we're going to do, let's take off again. I'm going to fly the drone out in the field, and we're going to tell the drone to land where the controller is. And of course, I'll have that controller with me. So you guys will get to see that. So let's go ahead and take off again. I'm going to do another automated takeoff. This is such a cool little drone. $339 for this little guy, and you get all of this safety and all of this automation. And again, you want to make sure it finds its home point. And let's send it out into the, of course in this case we're going to change it, so maybe that didn't matter so much. Let's go ahead and send it out over the field out here. And how high are we? We're about, oh gosh, we're only 17 meters high. So let's send it out there about 100 meters. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move to a different location. I'm going to take the camera with me. And we're going to change the home point to the controller. So I don't know, I'm probably, I don't know, 20 meters away from where I was originally. So what are we going to do here? I am going to click on those three dots, and I'm going to go to back in that safety menu, update home point right there. And you can see a map, and you can see where the home point is. I'm going to click on the controller, and I'm going to click OK, and it updated the home point. You can see, we saw it on the screen. It updated the home point. Oh, and the return to home attitude, I must have touched that, didn't mean to. Let's go back to 35 meters. So let's go ahead and hit return to home. Let's do it on the controller. And it should come back to me where I'm standing here with the controller rather than where we originally had it set. And it's rising to its 35 meters like it's supposed to. And here it comes. And you can see me standing there, and it looks like it's coming right directly back to us. Huh? Look at that. There it is. So am I going to have to get out of the way? Is it going to land right on top of this controller? We'll see. There it kicked the... So it's coming down. Yeah, it's starting to land. And look at that. It's accurate. It is right on top of me. So I'm going to stand out of the way, and I'm going to move the camera back to make sure that you can see. You can see me backing up with the tripod. This is funny. But when would you use this? I'll tell you when you're going to use it. You're going to use it in an instance, say you were on your, you were mobile. In other words, you were riding your bicycle or you were on a hike, and it doesn't like the landing. So sometimes it doesn't think that the landing place is suitable. And in this case, I'm sure this all looks the same, so it's not sure. I'm going to hold the left stick down and force a landing. And there we go, we're on the ground. But if you were say you were hiking and you're flying your drone as you go, you don't want to go back to, you don't want it to go back to the home point where you were at, you know, half a mile ago. So that's where you would update that to your controller. That way it knows where you're at and it's going to come back to you. Okay, I'm going to show you one more really cool trick here. I'm going to show you how you can use the map to adjust your home point to wherever you want on that map. We're going to do a manual takeoff, both sticks down and in. And let's go ahead and take off. And it should grab its home point. It told us it got its home point, so we know it set its home point from the landing site. Again, let's just go straight up, and we'll run it out. Gosh, let's run it out over the field here again, maybe in a little different spot. Spin it around here. So what I think I'm going to do is, I wanted to show you this. I think I'm going to go out there in where those basketball courts are, and we'll see if we can adjust it to land there. So let's go ahead and run out into the park itself. And again, we're at about 17 meters high. So we're just going to run out there. And pardon me for a second while I walk out to where those basketball courts are. And I'm going to take a camera with me. Okay, so I'm going to click on those 3 dots again. And I'm going to go back into that update home point again. And I'm going to, this time, use that arrow. And I'm going to use this map to adjust where I want the home point to be. And I want to move the home point, and let's dial in on it here. No, that is not it. I want to be, hang on here, I want to make sure I'm looking at what I'm looking at here. Yeah, so the basketball courts are right there. There's the pond. So you have to, you can expand the map by 2 fingers pulling out, move it in by 2 fingers in, or excuse me, move in on the map by 2 fingers out, expand it by 2 fingers together. So I think this is probably a pretty good spot right here. So I'm going to click OK, and you'll see that it'll tell us that it's updating that home point. And it said home point updated. So we're good to go. So let's go ahead and execute a return to home. I'm going to do that on the controller. And you'll see it come to this point that I told it to on the map. Look, it's pointing right to us here. And I'm just walking out to the thing is, what I will say is the granularity on the map can be kind of rough. So how exacting you can get, I don't know. But I picked this because it was a pretty open area. But you can see we, on the go, customized and changed that home point. And down it comes. And it kicked that camera up again. Let's move it straight down again. And it is coming down. See if I can point up at the drone. I was right underneath it. There it is. Trying to get the camera on the drone here. There we go. She's coming down, and it's going to land, I mean, exactly where we put that spot. Should pick the camera up now. It is. It's picking the camera up. It's looking at me. And yeah, unsafe again. It's seeing, and it's telling me low battery. Well, we're good. Okay, so I forced a landing then because it looked down and it just saw the concrete surface, didn't know if it was safe to land. So again, I just pulled the left stick down. Now we're getting pretty low on battery, so let's take off again and let's force a low battery return to home, and you can see what it does then. So let's hurry up and do that. Both sticks down and in, and we're gonna go straight up. And I'm gonna go straight up in a hurry. And it's already telling me low battery, but we're gonna force it into a low battery return to home. What I'll tell you is the algorithm on this drone knows, and I'm up 42. I want to get lower than that because I want to show it rising to its return to home height. Let me drop that camera down. Let's fly it around until it forces itself into a low battery return to home. And you can see on the battery meter at the top, let me click on that. That battery meter tells you how long until return to home. And it's giving us the countdown right now. So it is going to return to home. We're just going to let it do that. And you can either confirm or let the countdown. And look at that, it goes right into return to home. Should rise to its 35-meter height, and it is. And then it's coming back to us. You know, and you can see minute and 31 until forced landing, 3 minutes until battery's fully depleted, and it's in auto return to home. So let's get out of that. Let's drop that camera down, and you can see this guy coming home. So what I'm trying to tell you is this guy is pretty foolproof. You're going to have to work hard to lose your drone. It always wants to come home, and DJI gave us a lot of options there on return to home to make it work for us. And look at that X, it's pretty darn close to the center of the pad there. So in fact, I think it's going to land on the pad. If not, we're going to be damn close. I'm going to stand on the other side of the drone here, other side of the pad, and we're going to watch this guy come down. Yeah, you see it on the camera now. Look at that. There she is, and it'll pick that camera up. Yeah, it's going to be right on the pad. Pretty darn cool. Look at that, right on the H. And although this guy, yeah, and critically low battery, so I saw it stopped recording. I don't know if it must have done that on its own. So I don't know. I didn't happen to notice how much of that we recorded, or if it stopped when it landed there, or what. But you get the idea. Let me get everything shut down, and we'll do a quick conclusion. Hey, okay, the DJI Mini 2 SE, or in my case, the DeMarco Mini 2 SE. What an amazing little tech-filled product for $339. Takes amazing video and packs the kind of technology that you just saw with regard to return to home. Again, I've said it before, you got to work really hard to lose your drone. These guys are robust and they want to come back to you. So we looked at what happens if you hit return to home when it's less than 20 meters away. It will simply hover in place. Or if you hit return to home on the controller, and I didn't know this till I saw it just now, all it does is prompt you to land, because otherwise what's it going to do? Yeah, it's just going to hover in place. So when you get out further than 20, and by the way, that's a safety feature. So for instance, if you were out, you know, over the water or something like that, and you lost connection or something, you would want the drone to automatically land. So that's why it does that hover in place. So I think that's a good feature. But then when you're more than 20 meters away, it will rise to its return to home height and come back to you. Just really cool stuff. Showed you how to change the home point to the controller, showed you how to change it on the map. Really handy features to have if you're out hiking or something and you want it to come back to you and not where you originally took off from. Another great feature. Low battery return to home speaks for itself. The drone is smart enough to know when it has enough battery just to get home and land. You can override it, but override it at your own risk. That's how you lose a drone. And then also, when you go out of range or you lose contact with the drone with the controller, it's going to back up 50 meters at its current height, retrace its steps, and then it'll rise to its return to home height and come back to you. It's trying to regain signal again. And that can happen for a number of reasons, right? You can lose it by your battery dies on your phone, your battery dies on the controller, you just plain fly out of range. And so those are kind of situations, or you get blocked by terrain. Those are the kind of situations that can cause that loss of signal. But again, the drone wants to come back to you, and we showed that. So gosh, I guess that's about it. Oh, the one thing that I meant to mention while we were doing it, but the return to home speed is about 10.5 meters per second. So when it's coming back to you in normal mode, you can hit the stick and have it come back faster if you wish. Anyway, I guess that's about it. I'll quit all this jibber jabber. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope it helps you with your new DJI Mini 2 SE. This is Marcus Crawford with the Idaho Quadcopter channel out, and if you like this kind of content, please consider subscribing to my channel. Most of all, I so appreciate you taking the time to look at this video. And of course, we'll see you on the next one. Bye now.